Percival in the current Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising patch 1.3 is a character who received one of the longer change lists that happened there, and most of them are based around being buffed. We're going to go through those changes real quick, compare them to the old version of the game, which we have live on screen right now, and then look at the new version of the game as I switch in between consoles. The first thing to mention is that one of the quality of life changes that he received, along with some other characters, is that his standing light has an extended hitbox downward. So you can see here that up until you're about point blank range, it's possible for Vasaraga here to crouch this attack. Before I switch to between the consoles, I also want to mention his backwards throw, where in the mid screen you were put pretty far away, meaning that if you ever went for this throw option, going for a backwards throw would usually mean that you might give up Okizeme in the mid screen, which means if you're holding back and throw teching and you happen to get this, that your offense is overall fairly weaker compared to going for a forward throw, meaning that you're going to be releasing the block. Well, if you're blocking traditionally, you can, of course, hold the block button and then go for throw, but something worth mentioning, especially if you try to walk back against the opponent's pressure. This is how these attacks behave in the current version of the game, where we can get a little closer to Vasaraga, and it does seem to connect a little bit more. Maybe Vasaraga is unique. I think this was a little better demonstrated on Lancelot, but that is something that they have said, is that this range has been extended downward, but, you know, if it has been, seems to be like a slight difference. Backward throw, though, it's a very evident difference, where all of a sudden we can get point blank very quickly and be plus almost like 52 in Vasaraga's face after we stop. So the backward throw Okizeme is far better than it was before. The next change is going to be to his Anzunden, which is his fireball. It's the ultimate fireball skill, where if you do this in the corner now, the bed of flames will extend from the corner into the middle of the screen a little bit. There is also another change where it says it now inflicts damage when coming in contact with guard point. Other than the characters, I'm not quite sure what that is supposed to mean. I tested this on Vasaraga's armor. It behaved the same way, like all the time. So I'm not quite sure what that change means at the moment. I have been able to find out in my brief testing. So if someone in the comments wants to enlighten us as to what that change means, I'd really appreciate it. What I can show off, though, is that the fireball extends. So if I do this point blank in the corner, Vasaraga walks forward a bit, and you know he still gets caught by the burn a little bit. So that's how it looks like now. To give you context for what this looked like before. Let's go ahead and demonstrate that here, where it's very pitifully stuck in the corner. So it's a small change. It does mean that Percival kind of becomes a stronger corner presence threat, it feels like, because now he can set up fire on you and you can take guaranteed damage. This does mean that, you know, he's a lot more terrifying in the corner. So instead of being like one of these characters where they got a stronger mid-screen presence with their fireball, with, like, say, compared to someone like Siegfried, who's got armored fireballs or a very fast ultimate fireball that is able to clash and contest other fireballs, Percival can have this fireball that sets up you know, this burning state to it, and now it has a stronger identity as like, hey, I am shredding your health bar in the corner. So this is ultimately a very good thing for him, I think, because he does have a command throw that you can only combo off of in the corner. They did not change this in this version of the game, which is something I would like them to do, is to give him the ability to convert off of this in mid-screen, but I guess they're worried about that making him too strong, as he was one of the stronger characters in the vanilla version of the game. Some other changes come to his sort of Rekka series of moves, if you will. There's the Schneiden, which this move was 7-frame startup in the old version, meaning you could not actually combo this off of a single light. But it is now 5-frame startup. So if we jump to the new version of the game, and I make Vasaraga stand, this actually does combo now with the 2-frame difference. It still does not true string from 5L, but because it is 2 frames faster, if someone's like manually inputting DP or trying to hold forward in DP with their skill input, you might actually be able to more reliably catch them pressing that just because this move will check their input 2 frames sooner, possibly catch them before they complete it. It sort of depends on the timing of all those things, and that's just a theory craft. But it does mean that, it's more applicable in some pressure combo structure as well. So could be something very useful. The rest of this is basically just damage changes. His Traumeri, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's his stock special. It has 2 more active frames to it, meaning it's more recovery's been reduced from 12 frames to 10 frames. Frame advantage has not changed. So they they reduced the recovery, but they increased the active time, meaning that there's just longer where this move is hitting the opponent. So it's probably more possible to link this in some combo routes than it was before. Percival mains will have some fun labbing that, especially off of like his launch combos. Even now, I'm thinking actually, I think it's gonna be something like. I have to lab this one out a little bit more, but the idea here being that it's functionally the same, but it might be more useful in combos while maintaining the same meter advantage. Or not the meter advantage, but the same abilities connect. Then there is his Zaresen, which if you have a stock, this move is buffed. So it has like a increased base damages. You have to do these versions, like this version, for example, did 3,850 damage here to Vasa Raga. And then in the old version of the game, it did 2997 or 2970. So very, very big damage increase actually for Percival here, meaning that he's got some more rewards for landing some of his moves. This is potentially mean that his combos might hit harder if he routes into these moves. If he snipes you with these in neutral, he hits a little bit harder. And more damage is fairly good overall. It just means that he's a stronger threat for it. So it seems that they're pushing his identity to be a more high damage-based character that might not have some like the utility of some other characters. Like, you think of Siegfried, for example. But when he hits you, he can eviscerate your health bar. And that is something that Siegfried can also do as well. So they're trying to catch up Percival on damage while not really giving him any sort of like new tools to play with. The Traumeri buff, where he's able to add the stock, might be more useful in combos. So could mean that in the corner you get a little bit more built-in set play, or you can get a new link that could be fun to add in there. The Schneiden change is arguably good for his pressure because again, this didn't combo before. So, but now it can combo. So there might be something where you can more quickly confirm into some things. But we'll see how his tools compare. He does sort of lack some of the skip neutral capabilities that other characters had, or the ability just to control space with some huge full screen options. Once he gets to about here, outside of like, his buff fireballs, doesn't really possess much, especially against some of the ultimate skills in the game. But it seems that they're trying to push at least his ultimate fireball to be a little more threatening in the corner. We'll see how these changes go for him. They are buffs, but in the context of everyone else, especially some of the other top tiers, really not suffering the most powerful of nerfs, I think he's going to kind of be where he's at, if not just a little bit more fun to play.